In the age of social media, it's very easy, Ed, to be deceived, but the latest scam is proving to be deadly. It's exploiting the shame and embarrassment of teenage boys. Joining us now, Bloomberg's Olivia Carville, and I'm not ashamed to say that I cried several times reading this story on the train this morning. What Business Week and what your reporting does so well so often is you shine a light on a few key individual stories. You make the story real. Jordan DeMay is one of them. Can you just articulate what happened to him and ultimately how many more numbers of people this was happening to?
Jordan DeMay fell victim to what is known as a sextortion scam. This is sexual extortion. Essentially, he was contacted by what he thought was a teenage girl on Instagram, and she turned the conversation flirtatious. She sent him a naked photo of herself and asked for one in return. When Jordan complied and sent a nude photo back to this individual through Instagram, immediately he was blackmailed for money. So what actually unfolded, and what he had no idea of, is that who was behind that account was actually con men or scammers based in Lagos, Nigeria, who had been contacting hundreds of teen boys across the US, reaching out to them to try and elicit a nude photo from them to then blackmail them. This crime, sextortion, is now the fastest growing crime in the US. The FBI has been sending out PSAs because sadly it's resulted in the suicide of more than 24 teen boys, including Jordan DeMay.
And a guilty plea coming from two very young boys themselves, ultimately, and just adults in Lagos who are now here in the US. Snap did respond to your reporting, saying they're ramping up our tools to combat sextortion, and we have extra safeguards for teens to protect against unwanted contact. And indeed, Meta's global head of safety you've been speaking to, saying that sextortion is a horrific crime, and we spent years building technology to combat it and support law enforcement in investigating and prosecuting the criminals behind it. But ultimately, you're saying this is still growing. What more stories are you hearing, or indeed ways in which is it technology that ends up being able to be a force against this?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, for the social media platforms, they don't want this occurring.
Yeah,
you know, these individuals, these bad actors are hacking into Instagram accounts to pretend to be these teen girls in order to coerce these nude photos. So for the platforms, it becomes, how do we prevent this from the outset? So they're using artificial intelligence to do things like suspect or detect suspicious activity on the platform. Meta is now sending sextortion-focused safety notices to teens, saying, you know, this is what sextortion is, be wary, be careful of who you're talking to. And just last week, they announced that they're going to be automatically blurring nude images that are sent through the platform. So all of these steps are being taken in an effort to try and curb this crime. But from the FBI's perspective and law enforcement perspective, it's just growing too big, it's moving too fast, and the scammers are too ruthless in how they blackmail the teens. They push them to the edge and beyond to try and get as much money as they possibly can from these young boys.
Olivia, this is the latest in a series of investigations you've done across quite a broad domain of AI-generated content on social media, deepfake pornography, and now this piece. You talked about the efforts there, but also the challenges. Is there one outcome from your investigation since publishing the story that you can talk about? Anything that happened in response to your reporting?
Well, I was surprised to see Meta announce just last week that they're going to be blurring nude images sent through the platform. I think that is a great step in the right direction. And you're right, I tend to focus these stories on, you know, the dark sides of social media, and there's obviously so much good that social media gives to children and young people as well. These are the edge cases, and I think it's really important for our viewers and our readers to know about the risks of social media, and specifically in this story, for young teen boys to understand maybe the person that you're messaging isn't actually who they say they are. Maybe you need to be more cautious about how you behave on social media, what you put out there to the public, and, you know, how you talk to individuals who are ultimately strangers, people you don't know.